right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh Juice, an indie game podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tommy Fresh, and joined, as always, it is...
Matty Juice. The juice
Juice.
is fresh, and we're ready to serve it, baby.
Yeah, oh boy, we got a great episode for you all this week. Thanks for tuning in, of course. We're going to be talking about a game called Slimekeep. A little bit of a roguelike shooter, twin stick kind of action. And is it going to be good? It's going to be the question that's on all of our minds. Because guess what? I'm on a hot streak right now. The past couple episodes, spoiler alert, if you haven't listened yet, I've been giving a lot of certified fresh juices. Will Slimekeep keep the ball rolling? The orange ball rolling, as it were.
Yep.
But before we do that, we do have to catch up a little bit and then hit some news, and then we'll get right into Slimekeep. Matthew, what is new with you? What's going on?
Yeah, so it was the holiday this past weekend, Easter. So went out to lunch. Yeah, went out to lunch on Saturday with my parents to just like celebrate, because on Sunday, the day of Easter, we went to Maria's side of the family, had some good food, some good times, fixed the TV, which is good. Everyone's looking at me as the IT guy,
Sure.
because I clearly I work in IT clearly, which I don't, but yeah, so that was good though. It was a good time. Been playing a lot of the Steam Deck still.
Yeah.
Exploring the emulation side of the Steam Deck with legally downloaded ROMs. And yeah, it's been awesome. I'm realizing
Great.
the full potential of this thing. Been playing a game that I will wreck at the end of the show on
Ooh.
there, which has been a fun one. It's been around for a bit. Play some Super Mario Galaxy, some Double Dash, which has been fun. Yeah, it's been good.
What the heck?
A little Ocarina of Time.
No.
Yeah, the N64 version.
The greatest of all time. God.
Yeah, the GOAT.
The GOAT, the greatest ocarina of all time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, it's been good. I'm fully becoming like a big fan of the Steam Deck, which, fun fact, I was not a fan of when they announced it.
Interesting.
I thought the controls looked stupid. I was like, why would there be two trackpads on there? Like that, it just seems so awkward to hold. And I was wrong. I'll admit it. It's fine. It's totally fine to hold. No problem whatsoever. And yeah, it's a cool little device. So I've been having a lot of fun with it as of late.
I love mine as well. I wish I've shared the sentiment that the the buttons are in the problem, because last week I played for a long time. I played Rogue Loops on the plane, and I played for a couple hours just like grinding that game. And the next day, my whole hand hurt.
Oh wow.
Like
Okay.
bad. Like I couldn't even like press on things.
Oh man.
So I was like,
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't had a long session like that, so I could see that maybe happening if I did. You played 3 hours of Rogue Loops, huh?
Yeah, I played it. I was
Loops.
looping. I was roguing. I mean, listen, I also, am known to cramp my hands around my phone playing Balatro. So like it was a perfect storm. Obviously, I still love the Steam Deck, and I'm planning on playing it a lot more. So there's no issues there. My week was all right. I played Flesh and Blood. There's a Pro Tour qualifying season right now. Went to go try to qualify at one, and I went 3-2, and then I bubbled out of the top 8, so I didn't have a chance. It was a little disappointing. I started off 2-0. That was very exciting, but I third round I paired into a deck that I'm favored against, but my deck clumped up. Theirs didn't. They got the win. They played very well. So that kind of set me on the path of not being able to top 8, because I lost the next one after that against a really tough matchup. And then I won the last one, but didn't matter. Didn't make it there. I have one more qualifier to play, and I hope I can do it. I'm just gonna
You can.
I'm just gonna
Believe in you.
focus. I'm gonna focus. I do want to say, I mean, we did Easter stuff too. That was fun, but I was watching TikTok, the
Oh,
application the other day, and
oh,
this was something that blew my mind. I was talking to my wife about this. I got a TikTok that was like a bunch of like clipped together videos of high school in 2010, right? The year I graduated, right? And it was like had like a song from that year playing in the background, and I was like, wow, this all looks so familiar. And then I was thinking, I was like, oh, it's 2025. If I were to watch a comparable video when I was a senior in high school in 2010, it would have been check out what high school in 1995 was like. And I was like, oh no, I'm old. Oh
yeah,
man. And she
yep,
didn't like that one. I made that point, and it was those were the
yeah,
days, I will say. But hey, listen, I still have some life in me left. I think.
good,
I
a
hope
little bit,
enough to podcast. I should
at
say.
least till the end of the episode.
At least, yeah, at least till the
Yeah,
end of the episode. Unless this game sucked, then maybe not. We'll see.
yeah.
But
Now, quick question.
yeah,
Sorry, about Flesh and Blood. When you go
yeah.
to these tournaments, do you when you say that like you have a favorable matchup?
Hmm.
Do you know the opponent's deck prior to sitting down and playing, or is it like once they start revealing cards, you realize what the deck is?
So Flesh and Blood is pretty interesting compared to like other card games because you have a hero, and you
Okay,
know, in other
well,
card
it's
games
like
like Magic,
Hearthstone. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. In Magic,
they do that in
yeah,
Hearthstone
yeah,
too. Yeah,
Hearthstone. There's a couple. I think One Piece is kind of like that as well. Um, Shout out Dan. Shout out One Piece. Shout out Pirates. I'm reading a book right now that I haven't not done with yet, but it's going to be a rec room at some point. But anyway, I digress from the pirate stuff. In other games like Magic, you would just sit down and be best 2 out of 3, right? And you wouldn't know what they're playing until you start playing. You're like, oh, it's this deck. And then after the first game, you can sideboard. You can bring in cards that are good against certain things, and then play the other game or two after that. In Flesh and Blood, it's best of one. So what you do is you sit down and you reveal your hero, and then
mhm.
you can choose to put cards into your deck that are good against that certain hero. And so that's how I knew it was a favorable matchup. But things just didn't go my way. That's what
Yeah,
happens. It's still a card game, right? There's variance. Although
yeah,
Flesh and Blood is like very low variance, there's always going to be variance in a randomized deck, right? So it
mhm.
didn't go my way, you know. But I have one more to play this season, and I mean it's for Singapore in July. I don't think I can go anyway, but I think like if I qualified, I'd be like, well, maybe I can go to Singapore. I don't need the rest of my PTO. Why not? Let's just do it.
Right. Yeah,
So
just go to Singapore.
we'll see. We'll see.
That'd be wild.
But there is a pro tour qualifier at PAX while we're there, but
Oh,
the day we're not going.
oh, Saturday.
Yeah, the Saturday.
Hey,
So
you could always get an extra ticket if you wanted to. I mean,
nah, I mean, it might be. I don't know how many people would play it. That's the funny thing. I can go in and
yeah,
like last year when I played that one tournament and just like
yeah,
wipe the floor with everybody.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
you
I'll
know,
take that card. Thanks. Yeah,
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah,
That prize.
yeah,
No
yeah.
problem.
But but hey, listen, we got a great episode for you all. Let's get to some news. We have a Discord, folks. It is sick. It's a great place
Ooh.
to ask questions, to recommend games, talk about games you're playing, talk about video game news that's coming out. Some news that we didn't put up here, but Oblivion is getting a remake that's coming out by the time you're listening to this. Already happened.
Yep.
Also, by the time you're listening to this, the Pope died. How about that? That's
Oh,
not a video game. That's not video game news, but
there's a correlation
there's
there.
a
Now we're
correlation.
going into Oblivion. Uh,
Oblivion, Pope
uh,
died. Anyway, shout out Pope Francis. 88, not bad, I would say.
yeah.
But another Crab's Treasure is getting a free content update.
Yes, it is, Tommy. So this is, obviously, if you've been listening to the show, this is one of the games I really loved. That was definitely top of my list. What did this come out in 2023? I want to say, maybe 2024, but it was definitely a top game for me. and it's a Souls-like. It's like as if Nintendo made a Souls-like, really liked it, and finally they're coming out with a content update that's free that a lot of people have been waiting for. New Game Plus is now
What?
included, so now you can play another run with the same character, but it'll be harder. So I'm excited about that because I can get that on the Steam Deck and I can
Ooh.
play. There we go. Also, they have a new bestiary. I guess that's maybe a new area you can go to of all the different types of enemies you've come across. Something like that, perhaps a new boss rush. I assume that's a boss rush mode, where you're able to fight one boss after another, which is fun. And then there's more stuff apparently, but I am very excited about it because it's just a really well made game from an indie studio that is pretty small. I think Aggro Crab Games, and they just like knocked it out of the park with this game. Like I could see this, being a franchise. To be honest, of like there could be a trilogy here of just another Crab's Treasure. So I hope they go that route because it is a really great game, and I will definitely be hopping in to check out the latest update. But there you go, folks. If you've been waiting on it, here it is, New Game Plus.
Here it is. Very exciting. I know there's a lot of big fans of that game. I never played it. Something I would like to play at some point, down the road. There's not enough time in a day, so once we go full time,
Yeah,
I'll be
there we
playing.
go.
I'll be playing the crap game. Don't you worry. Nintendo Switch 2 US pre-orders finally got a new date, and it is right after this episode comes out on the 24th of April through their website. So you had to kind of sign up with your account, and there were no price increases on the
Yeah.
console itself, but some of the peripheral kind of hardware, I'm guessing like that camera probably went up in price, maybe
Yeah.
some other stuff. But that's good news that the price, I mean, like they couldn't, right? And it kind of sucks, right? Let's say they were like, let's say that it was a fair price,
Mhm.
already. It would kind of suck to be like, oh, people are already complaining about it. So
Right.
it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if there's any amount of tariffs. We got to, stick to it. But hey, listen, we take a win where we can get it. I'll be pre-ordering it if they let me, of course, but I think they will.
Yeah. It's also it will be available in like Best Buy and GameStop
Mhm.
as well.
Oh,
Not
really?
Amazon apparently. Apparently no listing for Amazon was found.
Hmm.
Which is interesting
Don't tell
because
Jeff.
I got the Switch One actually through Amazon, so surprised it's not there. But another thing I did see as well is that kind of tied to this is that GameStop is bringing back the midnight releases for Switch
Whoa,
Two. Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
for those of us that remember going to a store to buy a game, um, those midnight releases were always a lot of fun. I went to a lot of them at a GameStop, some of them at a Microsoft store, and yeah, it was a fun time to get together with some other nerds, get your game. You're all excited. You get home, you're probably you're already planning to stay up till like 4 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
You took you're not going to school the next day, or you're not going to work the next day, whatever it is. So I think it's cool. They're kind of like bringing this back, maybe giving a little opportunity. I mean, it's just probably for the Switch 2. It's not like starting when the Switch 2 comes out or anything like that, but maybe gives an opportunity for those young kids to see, hopefully a fun midnight release, and everybody's excited and in a good mood.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a Thursday
Yeah.
release, so you had to go out the Wednesday night. Um, so I won't be doing that.
Woo.
But I remember those days fondly. They
Yeah.
were pretty fun.
And midnight
Um,
movies too.
oh yeah, but that's
Yeah.
something I'd still get on board with for whatever reason. I just
Yeah. But they still I remember at a certain point it was like, oh, the midnight movie is out at 8 p.m.
yeah,
at night.
yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, do they still do that? Where like if you go
I
to a
don't
midnight showing, it's like pretty early.
I don't know. I think like some like fancier theaters, like some more indie theaters will do it.
Oh,
Because I know my sister will go to stuff like that, but I don't know about like AMC doing it anymore.
yeah.
But hey, I love going to the movies, because I am terrible about watching movies at home. So I love the theater experience, getting that popcorn, getting comfy. Even if it's a shitty movie, I don't care. You know,
Yeah.
then they get to talk about how bad it was after. That's a lot of fun. Now, speaking of bad or not, Slimekeep is the game for this week. It is on Steam. We had keys provided for us, but it is $14.99 and it's developed and published by Ben Bonk, a solo dev. In a world becoming corrupted by the evil Slime King, kill or capture various slimes to grow stronger and save Slimetopia. Venture through procedurally generated levels in this fast-paced roguelike if you're tough enough to not get slimed. Matt, do you want to talk about the gameplay first?
Yes, I will do that. So I actually haven't played Enter the Gungeon, but I've heard it's similar to this game. So if there's any basis for the gameplay, and actually the developer themselves says that they're a big fan of Enter the Gungeon. And they say this is almost a combination of Enter the Gungeon and Slime Rancher. Those who have played Slime Rancher, it's that game where you're a rancher and you collect slime. So it's very if you can just kind of picture that from the gameplay standpoint. So you start at the game, you're this green little slime guy, and you have a gun, and essentially you're going into these procedurally generated rooms and this procedurally generated map, and going into all these different rooms to either kill slime or to capture slime. Now when you capture slime, you can bring it back to your home base and you can deposit those slime, and then they will turn essentially into skill points that you can use on the skill tree. Now, there's also a day system as well. So once you do clear all the rooms, you either have the choice to go ahead and hop on a boat and go to the boss battle, or you can move to the next day. When you move to the next day, you heal a little bit for your character, not all the way, which is something we could talk about, but you heal a little bit. And then you also get a different set of procedurally generated rooms, and you kind of can rinse and repeat that a little bit, allowing you to maybe upgrade your skills a bit, maybe find new weapons. You do have a pet with you, a pet slime that you can actually drop weapons to. You can also get different things so that pet slime behaves in different ways based on the skill tree. So that skill tree is for you and your pet. You can find shops in the game in different levels. You can find chests, as you saw right there. It will let you know once you've discovered all the rooms, which I think is a useful little mechanic. Now, there's not a lot of rooms. I will say it's a pretty small map. I'd say overall, like doesn't take long to clear all the rooms or find all the rooms. And yeah, I think from the gameplay standpoint, I mean, it is pretty simple. It doesn't really have like there's not a lot of choices you need to make with the skill tree, which to me kind of means like once you do one run, you're probably understanding how every run's going to go. It's not like you really have vastly different strategies for um, for each run, because you can upgrade your skill tree in different ways for each one run. There's not really a lot of branches of the skill tree. So that's something in terms of the gameplay where I'm like, there's not a crazy amount of replayability here. I did see some other commenters mentioning that as well. But I do think the core gameplay is pretty fun. As someone that hasn't played Enter the Gungeon, like I said, so I'm basing this truly just on this game alone and not trying to compare it too much because I can't. But yeah, I do think the gameplay is fine. Now you have the option, like I said, to kill slime or to capture slime. I do think um it can sometimes be like a little cumbersome to like switch between the two, even though you're just
Mm-hmm.
pressing one button. Sometimes I kind of found that like it just felt a little awkward at times. I don't know if it's because of like the types of rooms I was in and the way the enemies were placed, or if it's based on like, I was just using the primary pistol most of the time. Maybe some other weapons you can pair it with, make it feel a little bit better. Now, when you do go and suction up an enemy to capture them, it does focus on just that enemy. You don't have to worry about getting hit by other enemies, which is nice. I think that's a nice feature. But I think, I was going to bring this up in the story, but I just think it's a little weird that you you either can kill a slime or capture a slime.
Yeah.
And you are a slime, right? And you're trying to defeat the slime king. I get that it's Slimekeep. I understand that, but I do think that it maybe would have been more interesting if maybe even there were like, we'll talk about the art, different colored slimes,
Yeah.
things like that. So, overall, I did enjoy the gameplay. I thought it was fun, and I pretty much look forward to doing like another run to see how far I could get. I didn't actually end up beating the Slime King, so I'm not a very good player at this, but I did have fun. You can see right now on the screen that's depositing all the slimes you capture, and they turn into those skill points. You get all the rewards there. So I did enjoy like the systems in the game. I think the gameplay maybe could have been a little bit more in depth. Would have been nice, especially with like a $15 price tag. Not that it's like crazy expensive, but I think I saw that Enter the Gungeon is also $15, and I know a lot of people were saying that that has more depth than this game. So people like to compare value by prices like that. Um, but I did have fun with the gameplay. I will say overall, like I think it's a simple game that just provides some time to kill kind of vibes.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the gameplay. What were you thinking?
Yeah, so I mean, I did play Enter the Gungeon quite a bit, and as soon as you start this game up, you're like, oh, this is very much inspired by it, and they admit that. You kind of mentioned the going back and forth between killing the slimes and capturing them. It is truly, it could, for a lot of people, I think that's going to be the huge selling point, or the point for them to like not really like the game, right?
Mm,
Because it creates a pretty interesting design kind of tension, right? Where you always the decisions you're really making. I mean, the skill tree, whatever, has some decisions, but the decisions you're really making in this game are: do I kill this slime or do I try to capture it? Right? That is kind of like the
yeah.
the like core kind of gameplay loop here, that you're gonna try to progress the game through doing that. And at first I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it does get a little cumbersome, as you said. And you know, I felt like I never really needed to not use my pistol, even if I got other guns. Like sometimes it'd be cool, but like I never felt challenged enough to kind of like need a better gun, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. And I I also felt like you have this button or a key for like dodging and like dashing, which like you could use, but like, I never even really felt like I needed it that much,
Yeah,
right?
you
Yeah,
move pretty quick. Yeah.
yeah, you move pretty quick, and then you know it's not as bullet helly kind of as
Mhm.
like something like Enter the Gungeon. And like I don't want to have to like compare this to Enter the Gungeon so much, but they come out and say it's very much inspired by it. And you brought up the price tag. Enter the Gungeon is $15 and infinitely more replayable with a lot more
Mhm.
depth, even in your first run, right? Where you can unlock new guns and new items and all this. And, I understand this is on a different scale. And the gameplay is fun, right? It's totally fine, but it can get a little cumbersome. Like when I play a roguelike, I want to be kind of happy to replay,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. Like I want like that kind of like I can't wait to play another run. This I didn't really get that. I died a couple times and I'd play more because I wanted to get through more of the game. And each time I was like, oh, this is gonna be kind of annoying. One thing I do really like though, I will say, is the day system. I thought
Mhm.
that was pretty interesting. Like how you're going through these rooms, you want to respawn new or procedurally generate new rooms, go to sleep. You only have X amount of days to do it. And each day you do, the challenge gets greater. And there's only so many slimes, right? Each day. So like eventually, like, each day is going to give you either X amount of currency or X amount of slimes to capture and use
Mhm.
to upgrade stuff. So like that was a pretty interesting kind of decision making like exercise in this game. But uh, ultimately, I don't really think it stuck the landing so much. But
Mhm.
I think maybe with some more variety, it would have been a more fun experience for me personally. But it, that being said, it's totally a fine game if you really like these kinds of games and if you really like the capturing of the slimes. I think this is going to be kind of a winner for you because it really ends up being the star of the show because it doesn't feel like the actual twin stick kind of
Yeah.
stuff going on is the real star of the show. So that's what I felt about that. But what about
Yeah. Oh,
the
sorry.
unless
Just
you want to add something?
yeah, just in terms of the capture mechanic, um I almost feel like it would be better just from like a fluidity of the gameplay standpoint to not actually have it as a second a- item or weapon that you're
Hmm.
holding, because you're always going to have it on you. From at least from what I played, I don't think you ever actually like drop it. So you basically have to switch weapons and then you have to like shoot the capture device. Versus if you maybe just like were able to right click
Hmm.
your mouse and it would maybe you have a capture like bracelet on or whatever, however you want to do it, aesthetically. But um maybe that would have made the gameplay feel a little bit more fluid because I did feel like there was, I don't know, I just was like, okay, I have to remember which like weapon I'm holding. One of them is a cat. Like there were a few times where I like shot the capture device instead of shooting, or like vice versa, just because I wasn't like maybe like paying attention to like what I was holding. And we'll get into the art side of it, which I think plays into it. But I think that might have helped. And you make a good point about like you know, whether you want to, capture the slimes or kill the slimes. Because if you kill the slimes, you get the currency like to your character. If you capture the slimes, the currency goes to the skill tree. So when you're capturing, you're like, okay, I want to use these as skill tree points versus like being able to use it in the shop or something like that. Um, as far as I know, that's how it works. I don't think they
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
yeah. But also something I realized is that the boss, to get to the boss, you have to take a boat and you have to spend 30 of your slimes. But with each day that passes, it gets more and more expensive.
Yep.
So you also need to like kind of remember that in case you like spend too much and you're not able to go to the boss when you wanted to, then you have to go through a whole other day of trying to find where the boss is. So I just thought that was like interesting. I don't know if that's how it works and like enter the gungeon, but um, I thought that was interesting. But you definitely make like good points, and I think yeah, we can talk about the story now, Tommy.
Yeah. Enter the Gungeon works closer to Undead West, that game we played where, you'd
Hmm.
go through and the boss would be at the end, almost like Sworn or anything like that.
Oh, okay,
Where
gotcha.
this was kind of interesting that you can kind of choose when and how you want to, like how much you want to spend to actually go to
Yeah,
to see the boss. So that is an interesting twist. Now the story, very simple, right? It's Slime King, like, I don't even know how much story I even got from it, but it's pretty interesting. Like you kind of are like this weird like rogue in this world that's like trying to get to the Slime King. It's just so weird though because it feels like you're not the good guy
yeah,
when you're like enslaving other slimes. I don't know. And then like you put them in it, so you get these slimes and you release them in this little yard you have, and then they evaporate. So why did you put them in the yard? I don't really know. So it's it's a very simple story that just gets you to understand why you're trying to go find the king. But I didn't really get a
yeah,
whole lot out of it. I wasn't really paying attention to it, to be honest. I don't ever really expect a lot of story out of these games. So you know, it's the world building. I don't think was really there. I mean, like it's green. It is green. And uh, but that's all I really got out of it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think yeah, I just can't get past that. Like, I understand that this Slime King like turn like the good slimes against you,
Hmm.
right? Um, but I also, yeah, I don't understand why you'd be like, all right, well, I'm gonna capture you and then like melt you down into skill points. Even though like it's not your fault that you had your mind turned. I don't know. I think that's basically how it works in the story. But you make a good point about the yard as well. I almost feel like I don't know, it would have felt maybe better if it was like a machine you put the slimes into and then they like squish into like skill points. You'd be like, okay, like you know, I'm like, I feel like, yeah, when you put things in a farm, you're kind of like expecting them to, um, I don't know, like do something for you other than like die, maybe like produce something for you. That could have been interesting if like,
Hmm.
if you capture a certain type of like the wizard slime, it produces a certain currency for you, right? And then the different slimes would produce different types of currencies, and maybe there were different types of skills in the skill tree that required those currencies. See, there we go. We can expand it there. So I think even like from a story standpoint, um, it just I don't know. There's like basic things about the game that I just like. I'm like, I don't really know why I'm this character. So not that I was looking for a lot of story out of a game like this, but I think when we talk about the art style, it kind of like made me think there'd be a little bit more of a story because I was like, wow, this is a really interesting art style. And I wonder, it's called Slimekeep. So I think I'm keeping some slime, which you don't really keep them, you just kill them. Right? So uh yeah, just some weird things like that that I think might give someone like the a different impression of like, you know, what the story could be in this game. Or like it just could be a little confusing. But maybe I'm looking too much into it, because it's just slimes, but it just kind of that's what I was thinking. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I
yeah.
mean, it. I don't know. Sometimes, like when other things are kind of lacking, you're like, well, maybe I have this kind of like thing. It's just like also a little weird that you just have a house, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe we're just looking too much into it. But visuals wise, you kind of mentioned it. It is the Game Boy, like OG Game Boy monochromatic green. I think you can customize into some other colors. I don't know about. Um, I'm not really sure because I didn't do it. But yeah, it's green. Little cute little characters. The slimes are pretty cute. Um, it's if you're into it, I think like you can definitely really enjoy it. I think I definitely didn't hate looking at this. It can be a lot of green, that's for sure. This is the more harsh of the colors that the Game Boy games would come in, but
Hmm.
I do think that it achieved what it was like seeking out to do, and it looks good. I would say the character design is not that imaginative except for the bosses, but other than that, it's it's pretty cute. It's like a cutesy kind of game, but it's not
Hmm.
like it's not blowing me away.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think I actually think that the kind of like monochromatic, green look almost like hurts some of the gameplay elements. Like the pet that you have. There were times where I was like shooting my pet because I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, it's a slime," and maybe that's just like user error, and you know, but I kind of kept doing it, and like once it like reached a point where even if it was just one bullet, I'm like, oh, it reached a point where I was like, okay, this is like something I maybe gotta mention, because your pet is a slime as well, which talk about the story or whatever, but that also seems odd. Um, that you'd have a pet slime, but you're also killing slimes. So anyway, I don't want to keep bringing up the story, but yeah. So that was like just something that from the art standpoint, it would have been cool if maybe your pet was something a little bit different or just like a different color, maybe something like that. I also think that sometimes the projectiles from the enemies were like maybe like hard to see. because it was all kind of blending in a little bit. That it was only a few of them that I had an issue with, but you know, I do think maybe they could have a little bit more of a focus. I know, we played Rogue Loops last week, and I appreciated kind of how the enemy attacks were like outlined. And, you
Mm.
kind of see them coming a little bit, so that it's a little bit, fair, because health is an issue in the game. You don't really get a lot of health points, and like you can, it's hard to get them back, basically. Sleeping, like I said, doesn't get you full health. It only gives you like 1 or 2 health points. So if you're at like 2, you're going up to 4 maybe, and then maybe that next day you get hit twice and you're back down to 2. So yeah, so that's something that maybe I would change. Also, the openings that are on the ground. This is like a weird one for me, but like
Mm.
there's certain openings that actually, if you're watching right now, there's one of them on the screen where it's this kind of like this black hole essentially on the ground, but it has this white outline around it. So to me, I kept falling in them, and maybe again, this is user error, but I kept falling in them because the white outline would make me think that I could go up against it
Mhm.
versus it being like a hole. So I think it would be better if just that white outline was gone and just make it look like a hole,
Mhm. Yeah.
basically. So I don't know. Like again, this is just could be me, but it happened enough where I was like, "Okay, why do I keep doing this? Like, what is going on in my brain where I'm like subconsciously thinking it's okay to go up against that?" And I'm like, "I think it's the white outline." So yeah, I think the art isn't bad at all. I actually, it's quite cute, like you mentioned. I think it does a good job with that. But I don't know. I would almost like, I get that it's Slimekeep, but like I've seen different colored slimes other than green. Like maybe add a little bit more color in there could be kind of cool. Maybe for like Slimekeep 2, something like that. And then one thing that I just thought was kind of funny is actually the boss that they're fighting right now. It's this mini boss you can find that's in a mech. When it actually introduces the mini boss, it kind of does like an animation of like a closer up look of the mini boss. And I swear, this looks like the Pringles
Yes.
guy is in a mech, right? It looks exactly like the Pringles
Yeah,
logo,
yeah.
but just in a mech shooting at you. So
Shout out
I
Mr.
call this
Pringle.
guy, yeah, I call this, yeah, the Pringles boss. So I thought that was funny. I don't know if that was intentional. Maybe the dev was eating some Pringles that night when created this one, but yeah, those my thoughts on the art. Which going into the game, I was thinking I was going to be a little bit higher on it because I was like, oh, it kind of looks cool. But then like it started to affect like gameplay things for me, so
Mhm.
bumped it down a few pegs there.
Yeah, yeah. It's not exactly like that game we played a couple weeks ago. Golden Warden, I think it was, where it was
Mhm.
also kind of that monochromatic kind of feel. It just felt like had a little bit more depth than this game. Now, sound and music wise, I actually really enjoyed the soundtrack here. It would kind of go from this like you would think it's like going to be some kind of cutesy song, and then go kind of into techno when you're playing and get a little bit more intense. I enjoyed that. The the sound effects themselves, they sounded totally fine. Nothing nothing too crazy, but I did enjoy the music actually quite a bit. That was probably one of the more enjoyable of uh, the kind of aspects of this game for me. So, big fan there actually.
I'm with you. I think the music gave me like Game Boy vibes, like Pokemon vibes.
Hmm.
I think that great job with the music in the game. I found myself just like kind of chilling in a room that I already defeated, just so I could listen to a little bit more of it. So yeah, really enjoyed the music. Sound effects, like you said, fine. I was actually looking or expecting a little bit more of like, I don't know, squishing. If
Yeah,
it's
more
slime, it's like
squishiness.
a little bit more squishiness because it's a slime like killing game. Um, Especially when you have all of them in the farm and they just all like,
Mm.
evaporate at one time. You think there'd be like, I don't know, a satisfying noise there. Maybe I'm being picky with it, but it's leaning pretty heavily into the slime stuff. So I feel like I gotta critique it on the slime stuff.
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. Now, performance wise, I actually did run into some issues. At one point, the keys just stopped working, and
Okay.
I couldn't even exit out from the game like with the escape button, and I didn't know what happened there, so I had to totally reboot the game, and I didn't run into it again. But that was like weird. I didn't do anything. I was just playing, and all of a sudden it just stopped working.
Mm.
So don't know what happened there. So definitely some bugs there. But what about yourself?
Yeah, I didn't have any like bad performance issues like that one. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. I did notice that it didn't save the resolution of the last time I played. When I booted it up again, it was like the wrong resolution, so I had to go back in and change it again. Um, Not a big deal, obviously, but, I didn't actually realize that it wasn't at the right resolution because I'm kinda thinking of this as like a Game Boy game, so I'm, like, picturing it a little framed a little differently, until, I don't know, I played, like, 20 minutes of the game. I'm like, "Oh, this is I could set this to be my full screen." So I did that, but, yeah, that was the only thing in game. Uh, I did note down, I would love for this to be Steam Deck compatible.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that it could be. I don't think it's a game that couldn't. I don't think the controls are that complex, but um, just would have been nice, now that I have one, we have one. Um, I find myself probably going to be playing a lot of the podcast games through the Steam Deck, so would be nice, And I'm surprised it's not like a requirement these days to release a game on Steam to make it compatible with Steam Deck.
Well, yeah.
So
This one
yeah,
I didn't even. I was all mouse and keyboard, so
yeah.
couldn't even use a regular controller. So I always used a regular controller when I played Enter the Gungeon. I know some people prefer mouse and keyboard for these kind of games, but I think some people also prefer the old controller. Now, this gets to our final rating. Our ratings are as follows: Certified Fresh Juice, best games ever, Balatro, Norp Apolog, A Steel, The Cub. What else? Ballionaire is a good one. These are good games, not the cream of the crop, but very good. We recommend them, and they're well worth the money. And then after that, we have Get on Sale. These are games like Wizard with a Gun, Hellscape, which we think have their qualities, but perhaps you should wait until it goes on sale, because it does have some things wrong with it at the time of release anyway. And after that, we have Manager Special, get on a deep discount, or you're really into a certain genre that we aren't into. And then finally, Spoiled Milk, games that we don't recommend for anybody. I'll start.
Do
This
it.
is the most get on sale game of all time. I think there's plenty of qualities that we kind of listed, right? And there are going to be some people out there that are going to enjoy it more than us. I definitely think so. But on the other flip side of that, there are some issues that I think are a little glaring for me to kind of give anything other than a get on sale. And the Enter the Gungeon kind of comparison is real. $15 for that game, $15 for this game. You're getting so much more out of Enter the Gungeon. Now, I understand it's a solo dev and a lot of work went into this, so I don't want to take that away from it at all. But there are some issues, in the gameplay, and, the supporting cast of things happening don't really make up for it. So for me, it's like a low to middle get on sale.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking as well. I was gonna go with on sale, a little bit on the lower side. I think you make a lot of good points. The game, even as someone that hasn't played Enter the Gungeon, I was still looking for a little bit more out of the game because of the price tag. And I know $15, isn't really that much,
Mm-hmm.
especially in what we're hearing about, $80 Mario Karts. But I just think that to me, it just didn't feel like a $15 game in terms of like the amount of content in the game. And I do think there's like opportunity for a sequel. I think like there's there's a good foundation here that they could build upon, lean more into the slime aspect of things, that could maybe help differentiate it from Enter the Gungeon. But and maybe like try to introduce some like different systems, maybe something more on the farming side since you kind of have a little farm area, maybe like some way to breed slimes, if it's more like Slime Rancher, right? Um, so maybe take a little inspiration from that could be interesting. But yeah, I'm giving it an on sale. I think if you like saw this game for like 5 to like $8, maybe could be like a good pickup to like just kill some time with. But I don't think it's worth the money. So I'm giving it on sale, which not a bad score, not a bad score.
Not bad.
Still doesn't mean we wouldn't recommend it to someone if we were like, oh, you'd be into Slimekeep, like if um you know we saw it on sale. So there you
Yeah.
go.
No, absolutely. And to hammer it home, I think like there are the good things about this game are some unique kind of game design decisions, right? And I
Yeah.
think it really comes down to the the choice of killing these slimes or capturing them, right? I think that is very interesting. Tied in with the day system is also pretty interesting. So if you're looking for something like Enter the Gungeon and you want to like get something a little weird going on, I think this is probably a good game for you. But otherwise, you might want to wait till it's on sale. Now, next week we don't really know what we're playing yet, but probably something really cool, or maybe another get on sale, or maybe worse. We don't know. If the juice ain't worth the squeeze, we'll tell you. Now we do have listener questions from our loyal listeners, the juice heads, in our Discord, of course, free for everybody to join. Capolo, the question bot himself, comes in and asks, stealing the old PlayStation slogan, the best place to play, which is the best place to play indie games? Platform, device, store, yada, yada.
This is a tough one, Tom. It's Nintendo. Actually, well, if I'm being honest, because this is talking about like platform, device, store. Obviously, Game Pass is a great platform to play indie games on, but I'm finding the Steam Deck. I
Let's
don't want to
hammer it
keep bringing
home.
it up. I'm just saying, like, I have, obviously, if the game supports at least controller, it should work on the Steam Deck. But I've like been playing more and more on the Steam Deck of games that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I had this. Let me boot this up. Oh, this is like I'm falling like back in love with like games that I haven't played in a bit.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think like I've been doing that with indies on there, and I think it's been great. Um, I would say like second to that is like the Switch.
Yeah.
I mean the Switch just has like fantastic indies, and they do go on sale like quite a bit, which is nice. And then the third, yeah, I would just say Game Pass. Like just what a great value. I've tried so many indie games on Game Pass. So if you're looking for, I guess that goes in like price order, right? It's
Yeah.
like most expensive Steam Deck, second, Switch, and third Game Pass. I think they're all really great for indies, so that's where I would go. And funny enough, none of those are PlayStation. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really think of PlayStation when I think of like I want to play an indie game.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually always bizarre to me when I hear about indie game is like launching on PC and PlayStation exclusively, and I'm like,
Hmm.
why? Why did you go with PlayStation? But
Yeah,
I would switch and Steam Deck only because I just find that I keep running into games on Steam Deck that like, and albeit these games are probably not on Switch anyway, but like it is kind of annoying to like get a game on Steam and you're really excited to play on Steam Deck and it just doesn't work on your Steam
yeah,
Deck and you're like, nah, well, I gotta play at the PC or whatever. But it is still great nonetheless. And then um I guess it's just Steam in general is the best store
yeah.
for all these indies. And you know what? I gotta give a shout out to itch.io because there's some cool stuff happening over there. And we don't cover it enough, but itch.io's pretty sick. If you spend some time over there, it's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
great question, Capolo. Bags comes in and asks, what is your favorite Mario Kart item?
My favorite Mario Kart item. Okay, my favorite item would probably just have to be, I love the triple red shell.
Okay. Right.
I just feel like there is something about, if you can time it right, hitting the same person 3 times in a row, that just is so funny. Because
You could break their soul.
after the first one, they're upset. After the second one, they're like, geez, like someone else had a red shell. And then after the third one, they're just like, what is going on? Someone had 3 red shells and just hit me. So I like that one a lot. And then of course I like the siren as well. Just because it stops the blue shell. So like it's always fun getting that when the blue shell comes. But yeah, I'd probably just go with the triple red shell. Love that one. Tommy, what are you thinking?
So the spike in me is like I like the perfect skill check item. The perfect skill check item to me is a single green shell.
Okay.
Right? There's nothing more satisfying than just nailing somebody with those. Obviously, the red shell's better, right? But the cool thing about the green shell that it has that the red shell doesn't really have is sending it backwards is like a directional thing. I feel like the red shell just kind of goes in the direction when you send it backwards, and like you don't really have any control. So, gotta go green shell. It's just so cool. Now, special shout out for a new item coming out in Mario Kart World. I'm all about the hammers that they're throwing. That's pretty sick. So
yeah.
I like that they added that. So great question, Bags. Getting excited for Mario Kart World, to be honest.
Yeah. Same.
K-More asks, an age-old question. Oh, really good question. What would be your weapon of choice in the zombie apocalypse?
Okay, so in the zombie apocalypse, my weapon of choice. So, you would think something with ammo would be good, but then you're limited, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't really do that unless it somehow generates its own power. Okay, so
Okay.
my weapon of choice. Well, no, that has limited ammo. Damn, never mind. I was gonna say the Wonder Waffy from Call of Duty Zombies because it can attack multiple zombies at once. It chains lightning together. That's a really good one, but it does have limited shots in it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking it might be solar powered. Tom, you go. I got to think about this one.
So first of all, I love in this question that Kmart says, what would be your weapon of choice in the zombie apocalypse, as if that is going to happen and not a zombie apocalypse. So appreciate that. So it helps me get into the zone, right? Like I'm understanding. I agree on the ammo thing, but the problem with like a sword, right, is it's still close to you and you can get bit, right?
Yeah.
So like I think like a halberd, like one of those like long pole, like but like has like a
just pictured you just like slicing zombies up with a halberd.
because like a long pole axe pole,
Yeah.
and you're just like you're keeping away. Problem is, if they do get close, you're kind of fucked, right? You got to be able to maneuver it. That's hard. Now, if this counts, full like I don't even care, like full heavy metal armor with spikes on it, so you just like start running and just spiking these zombies. That's probably not practical, but that's the one that like when you have your Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid moment where you're like, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna go out in a blaze of glory. Pop that on, like you're like Theoden at Helm's Deep, like you're just going out onto the bridge to like fight off these things. You don't know Gandalf's coming yet, and you're just like, going to your death. That's what I would do.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Um Now if we're thinking like anything, I mean
Okay.
maybe like the Green Lantern's ring.
That's pretty cool. I mean, yeah.
You know,
But even that needs
something.
to recharge.
That's true. Maybe then what the hell else could I use, Tom?
What about a
Like
harpoon
a
gun?
gun in Star Wars? Um,
A blaster?
plasma, like a plasma rifle kind of thing that doesn't, just
What if it was
unlimited
like a
ammo.
harpoon gun, because they have the rope on the harpoon and you just
Yeah,
like, all right, let me get it back. That
let me
doesn't, I
pull the
mean,
zombies.
let me pull the
Yeah, I want to cook them. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a good question. I don't really. I mean, trying to think of like ridiculous weapons. You know, um,
Yeah.
from like fiction.
I mean, like a wand of sorts or a
Yeah,
staff, like Gandalf's staff.
true. Yeah,
I'd be, I mean,
yeah,
I want that just in regular life. It doesn't even have to be a
yeah,
zombie apocalypse, but
yeah. That'd be a good one. Yeah, I think Harry Potter would survive a zombie apocalypse.
yeah, easily. He's probably
Yeah,
like Crucio, Zombio,
yeah,
and then it's all done. That's it.
yep.
That magic system doesn't really hold up when you think about it. It's like
No,
it
fix your
doesn't.
vision. What's
Yeah,
going on
yeah,
here?
yeah. It doesn't have nothing. There's no cost to learning those spells. You just do them,
Yep.
and there's like, don't do the one that kills people. That one's bad. We'll come and get
Don't
you.
say those words.
Well, it's just so funny, right? Like this is a little bit of an aside. They're like, don't use that curse because the Ministry of Magic will come and get you, right? And like put you in jail. You're a murderer. You will
Yeah.
murder them too. Like, oh, come and get me. I already
Yeah.
murdered somebody. Like,
Yeah. I
what's
got
gonna stop me
magic.
now?
Yeah.
Like,
You
you
just get
got
a
to do
few
it
people
too.
together like that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
it's, oh man, Harry Potter. But anyway, next question. Good question though, Kmore. I always love those scenarios. R Carp 11, my sweet sweet wife, comes in and asks, "Have you ever gotten so good at a single player game that you love that you create fun little rules while playing it to keep it interesting?" So like you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm really good at this," or even it could be multiplayer. Really good at this, and you're like, "Oh, let me create a fun little like I'm only gonna do like one kind of move or one handed or something like that."
Yeah.
Like how our grandfather used to play was so good at ping pong that he would just play left-handed. He was right-handed. And that was just because to keep it interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. So no, I definitely do this for both single player and multiplayer. I think the first thing that popped in my head was Pokemon. There's
Mhm.
always like like the Nuzlocke run and like different runs you can do with different sets of rules. So that's always interesting and fun, especially like I mean, you can even get into like the modding territory, right? Where you're just like
Mhm.
that's to keep it fresh, rather than you creating your own set of rules. You kind of download a set of rules. Um, Also, games like a multiplayer game like Gears of War. There's even like videos I would make where it's just like I'm only going to use the sniper this game. They do that in like all the kind of shooting games. It's like these challenges of like pistol challenge, and they only get to use a pistol or whatever. So I've done that sort of stuff as well. Um, in terms of like I guess a truly single player game. I mean, I know Pokemon technically is, but kind of thinking more modern, maybe like Dark Souls, like you could like I mean these aren't your own little rules, but you can like spec into a different type of build. There's like a bunch of different builds you can do where you can just experiment with things. So I've done that, but those aren't really my own little rules. Uh, so yeah, that's what I can recall right now. But I've definitely done it for like a variety of games where just to keep it fresh and you see someone like Northern Lion or whatever doing it on YouTube, and you're like, oh, I want to try that type of run or whatever it is. Um, so yeah. What about you, Tommy? What are you
Sorry,
doing?
I'm pointing to fresh. He kept saying it. Yeah, I do this. I've definitely done Pokemon ones. I will do Balatro ones now. Balatro like games like Balatro and like Slay the Spire with like their stake and an ascension system. It basically kind of does that for you on its own. But I will do like runs where I'm like, okay, I'm only trying to get this combo. And that's it. And that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to make it work no matter what. Or I'm like, you know what? I've never done a royal or like a, not a royal like a royal flush run. I've never done that. I'm going to
Yeah.
try to do that. That's like kind of like a challenge to myself. Done that. Super Smash Bros. I like if I feel like I am at least one of the better players playing in a Super Smash kind of scenario, I'll go random. I'll just like random character, whichever
Yeah.
comes up, I'll play. Or I'll say you pick the character and I'll play it. That's very fun to me. And yeah, I like doing stuff like that. It's kind of a little extra challenge, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's just kind of also stuff that just like happens like sometimes where you're just like, yeah, like Smash is a good game for that. When
mhm.
you play enough with a group and you're like, let's just start like making up our own, like only do players with blue shirts, or,
Yeah,
or like something
yeah.
like that.
Uh
Um, yeah,
I
it's,
hope there's another. I mean, I know that like he always says, Sakurai is always like, I don't want to do another Smash Bros. I hope there's one on the Switch too. It's too. It
yeah,
would make too much money. They can't not do it. It's a core item for the brand, you
yeah,
know.
oh yeah, yeah,
But I am like I never played Kirby Air Ride, so I'm kind of interested to play Kirby Air Riders
yeah.
by him. So that is going to do it though, folks, and bring us down to a little room called the Rec Room where we recommend something, well, perhaps isn't an indie game. What do you have to recommend this week? You hinted at it.
I did. So this is a game I've been playing on my Steam Deck. You can add non-Steam games on the Steam Deck. So I've been playing Poke MMO. More than I thought I was going to be playing it. So for those who don't know, Poke MMO has been around for a while. It's you can go to their website. I think it's pokemmo.com, and they've got you can play Poke MMO on PC, iOS, Android. I'm playing on Steam Deck. You can play it on like pretty much everything, which is really cool. But essentially, what it is, it's a game. It's a Pokemon game, obviously based on like Pokemon Black and White. That's like the main ROM you need to download. So you actually download multiple Pokemon ROMs that feed into this.
Hmm.
But the only required one is Black and White. So that's what I'm guessing. I've never played Black and White, but you download that ROM legally. And then you can download, there's like Fire Red, Emerald, Sapphire, or Platinum, I think. So there's a few different ones that you can add together. And it kind of has like multiple regions in one, and it's an MMO. So you're walking around, and there's so many people playing, all walking around. They're Pokemon characters, and they have their own like PvP system, like their own kind of menu in the game. So you can like, if you want to, you can battle anyone, you can trade with anyone. There's like a global trade network essentially in the game. And I've never played Black and White, so I don't really recognize the Pokemon that well. But I'm still, just going by type. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do a fire type. Fire flying is cool. So I'm not really caring too much about what the Pokemon is. But it's been fun. It's been a good time, and it's just really cool to also think that like I could be playing this on my Steam Deck, and then maybe I want to log in on my phone because like I'm away somewhere and I just want to play a little Pokemon, or I can play on my computer. I can kind of play. It's like this, like since it's online, it's like saved everywhere. So, cool idea, and it's also like, oh man, maybe if anyone were to join, like I texted the boys, I was like, I'm playing Pokemon MMO. If anyone wants to friend me, it's like free,
Mhm.
to play. It would be cool to be like, there's other my bros are playing it, and we could like battle each other, sometimes or whatever. You could play for like years,
Yeah,
if you want. Whenever you're into Pokemon again, just hop back on PokeMMO, continue to your character. So there you go.
I
It's
do.
it's been fun.
I do love a little Pokemon run. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. I went back. I beat Fire Red. That was just so much fun. And Sapphire. I love the Game Boy Advance ones. Those are probably my favorite, if not the original Red and Blue. But once it got to DS, I played them all. I played Black and White. I played Diamond and Pearl. But the sprites in the Game Boy Advance one were just so perfect. But
Yeah.
Pokemon MMO is really sweet. I played it, I think, when it first came out a little bit. I definitely got to hop back in, and I'll friend
Mhm.
you, brother, and
Ew.
I'll fucking beat you in a battle, man.
You
Um,
probably will.
my recommendation this week is a album by Bon Iver called Sable Fable. And this, Bon Iver is just one of those artists that is so good that, like, it blows your mind. You're like, there's no way that the guy's name is Justin Vernon. There's no way he's going to, like, 15, like almost 20 years after his first album, still put out something that you're like, this is insane how good this is.
Yeah.
And did it again. I would recommend listening to the whole album. It came out in like 2 discs technically, but the second disc just came out like a couple weeks ago. And I would say, if you just want to feel for what the album is, I think I would listen to 2 songs. And the reason this album's so good is because he blends folk, like relaxing folk, into like really like relaxing folky R&B at some point. So like
Mhm.
the first disc was a little bit more folky, and then the second disc is very R&B. But Space Side is the first single from the album that I would listen to. So good. And then I would also listen to There's a Rhythm if you want to get a little bit more of a feel for the more R&B stuff. And then it's just like good listening. And there's some features on there too. Flock of Dimes, Danielle Haim from Haim or Haim. I forget how to pronounce that band. And I think he's doing something with Lil Yachty. I don't know, but I don't know about that one. But that's not on the album. But yeah, Sable Fable by Bon Iver.
Mm. Yeah, I actually saw this album on TikTok a little bit. I guess before it came out, there were like some teasers. So I was listening to a little bit of it. Sounded good. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
Check
that
it out.
second disc was like a real curveball because like
Yeah.
you listen to Space Side, the first one that came out, it's like, oh, acoustic guitar, folky, kind of what Bon Iver is known for, like, originally really good. And then that second disc came out, and you're like, oh, this is like good, like R&B, soulful, good stuff.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
check it out. But hey,
Yeah.
that's gonna do it, folks. We
Ooh.
kept our slimes intact for the most part. Next week is going to be a banger episode, whatever it's going to be. I think that's the one guarantee. They're always bangers, nothing but bangers. You can find me on all socials, mostly Blue Sky these days, at freshbudspod.bsky.social. But I have another podcast called Fresh and Buds, and I talk about a game called Flesh and Blood we talked about in the episode. So check that out. You can find us on all socials at Fresh Juice Pod. And finally, where can they find you, Matt?
Find me at Matty Gorm, Gorm, on all the socials. Been posting more on TikTok and on YouTube. Been playing RuneScape Dragon Wilds, which is just a blast. So if you're interested in that content, I'll also be streaming it over on Twitch. Feel free to check me out at Matty Gorm.
Amen. Amen. And as a wise man once said, make sure your juice